They hide behind smiles, behind politeness, behind soft words that smell of rot. You've felt it. You've walked into a room and something in you recoiled, not from danger, but from decay, from weakness dressed as humility, from fear wearing the mask of kindness. You sensed it, but you didn't act, because no one told you that weakness isn't just a flaw, it's a disease, and it spreads. Niccolò Machiavelli never feared the strong. He studied the weak. Why? Because weak men don't confront, they corrode. They cling to others for power, manipulate through shame, sabotage from within. And in the palace of power, it's not the sword that kills the prince. It's the whisper, the hesitation, the quiet betrayal from the man too scared to bleed for anything. So we don't pity the weak, we identify them, we isolate them. We understand that behind every failure, every broken alliance, every moment you felt betrayed, stood a man who had already surrendered to fear long before you ever met him. Today we expose them, not for revenge, but for clarity. Because if you can't see weakness, you'll fall to it. If you can't name it, it'll infect you. And if you don't learn to destroy it, it will sit beside you while you rot from within. This is not motivation. This is Machiavellian truth, strategic power in its purest form. The time for innocence is over. Let's begin. Part 1. The crutch of constant validation. The first behavior, he needs applause before he takes a step. Before he acts, he checks the room. Before he speaks, he scans for nods. And before he believes in himself, he begs the world to believe in him first. This is the man who cannot breathe without validation. A man who confuses approval for strength. But Machiavelli would tell you, any power that can be given by others can be taken away faster. Weak men rely on external mirrors. They are not guided by principles, but by reactions. If you cheer him, he moves forward. If you frown, he hesitates. And that hesitation, that flicker of uncertainty, that's all a predator needs. See, in the theater of power, the need to be liked is a fatal flaw, because the man addicted to approval will always betray his own judgment. He'll bend his will to please the masses, even as the structure he stands on collapses beneath him. Niccolò Machiavelli observed this trait in courtiers, who smiled at kings in daylight and cursed their names at night. They blended in, adapted, conformed. But when the storm came, they vanished. Because a man who needs validation will never survive isolation. In modern terms, he overexplains, he apologizes before speaking, he dilutes his truth so it fits in the crowd's mouth. That's not kindness, it's cowardice in costume. Now here's the strategy. Watch how people behave when they're ignored. The weak crumble in silence. They reach, they fidget, they overcompensate. Because for them, silence is suffocation. The strong, they grow more dangerous in silence. They understand that needing no one makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. So ask yourself, are you acting or reacting? Are you building from within or waiting for someone to clap before you feel worthy? If validation is your fuel, they own your engine. Start starving the need. Say less, move with intention. Let silence be your confirmation. Because power never asks for permission, it commands by presence. If this hit deep, like, comment your power phrase and subscribe for more Dark Power. Part 2. The paralysis of overexplaining. A weak man cannot bear misunderstanding. He fears being misread more than being disrespected. So what does he do? He explains, and explains, and explains, until his spine dissolves beneath the weight of needing to be seen as good. But Machiavelli knew something far more brutal. The need to explain is the beginning of surrender. A powerful man says little, not because he lacks the words, but because he refuses to hand out his essence for inspection. Weak men? They open their chest for dissection. They cannot endure being seen as cold, cruel, or sharp, even if that's what the situation demands. Watch closely. A man who overexplains is trying to escape discomfort. He's not speaking to clarify. He's begging to be accepted. And acceptance, in the court of manipulation, is the most expensive currency, because the more you pay for it, the less you're worth. Imagine a man standing in a courtroom where no one accused him, yet he steps forward to justify his actions. He reveals everything. Why? Because silence is too heavy for his fragile identity. But in power dynamics, mystery is leverage. The over-explainer has no shadows. Therefore, he has no protection. He thinks transparency will make him loved. But the truth is, people do not respect what is too available. What they respect is control. Silence. Here's your strategy. Stop rushing to defend yourself. Let people misunderstand you. Let them wonder. Let them create their own stories. Because the minute you chase their perception, you've handed them the script of your life. Machiavelli taught that rulers must appear virtuous, but must never be bound by virtue, meaning you must know how to play the role when needed, but never explain the performance. Let the mask do the work. In daily life, speak with weight, not speed. If you're questioned, pause, delay. Make silence your first language. It breeds tension, curiosity, and above all, respect. Because in a world of noise, the quiet man owns the battlefield. Never explain, never justify, only maneuver. If this shattered your people-pleaser programming, like, comment your power phrase, and subscribe for more dark power. Part 3. The flinch reflex. You want to see a man's soul? Watch what makes him flinch. Not physically, psychologically. Mention his failures, question his worth, mock his silence, and the weak man will twitch, stutter, defend. Because weakness isn't always loud, it's reactive. It's the man who can't hold eye contact when you challenge him, the man who laughs nervously when tension rises, the man who thinks avoiding conflict is the same as mastering it. But Machiavelli would spit on that illusion. He wrote, "It is far better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." And the one who flinches, he is loved by none, and feared by even fewer. Flinching is not about fear of pain, it's fear of perception. The weak man fears being seen as wrong, rude, or cruel. He overcorrects, shrinks, apologizes before he's even struck. Here's your strategy. Bring your stillness. When accused, don't blink. When mocked, don't explain. When cornered, don't react. Stillness isn't absence of feeling, it's the weaponization of control. Predators don't attack noise. They attack movement. The flinch, the apology, the collapse. Want to be unreadable? Kill the flinch. Let your silence be dangerous. If this exposed a part of you, like, comment your power phrase, and subscribe for more dark power. Part 4. The need to be nice. He calls it being kind, but Machiavelli would call it a leash. Weak men obsess over being nice. Not noble, not honorable. Nice. But let's be clear, niceness is not virtue, it's submission in costume. It's a man lowering his eyes to avoid offense, agreeing to be liked, smiling when he's seething inside. It's not goodness, it's fear. Machiavelli warned, a prince must learn how not to be good. Why? Because power doesn't belong to the agreeable, it belongs to the strategic. Weak men use niceness as armor, hoping passivity will earn them protection. But all it earns them is invisibility. The world does not remember the agreeable, it remembers the forceful. The nice man won't say no directly. He hints, he avoids, he apologizes for existing. And when faced with confrontation, he folds, not because he's moral, but because he's afraid of tension. Here's your strategy. Stop confusing likability with strength. Stop softening your voice to make others comfortable. Speak clean, cold, without explanation. You're not here to be understood, you're here to be respected. Nice is not powerful, precise is, controlled is, boundaried is. The moment you stop fearing disapproval, your energy shifts. The weak won't understand you, but they'll never cross you again. Be calm, be sharp, never be nice. If this rewired how you see yourself, like, comment your power phrase, and subscribe for more dark power. Part 5. The overshare instinct. A weak man leaks, not blood, information. He meets someone new, and within minutes he spills his traumas, his doubts, his fears. He calls it being open, but Machiavelli would call it a tactical error, a fatal one. Understand this: every word you give is a weapon someone else might sharpen. Weak men confuse connection with exposure. They believe sharing everything builds trust, but in reality, it builds a map, straight to their vulnerabilities. And predators? They don't need to break you when you hand them the blueprint. Machiavelli said the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. But I say, the first way to expose a weak man is to look at how quickly he exposes himself. He talks to fill silence, he shares to be liked. He thinks transparency makes him real, it only makes him easy. Here's your strategy. Master restraint, not silence, but selection. Speak deliberately. Reveal only what furthers your strategy. Leave space between your sentences. Let others guess. Because mystery breeds caution, and caution breeds respect. If people feel like they know everything about you, they value nothing about you. But if they feel there's more beneath the surface, they hesitate. And that hesitation is control. Hide your story. Let them earn your truth. If this pierced your instincts, like, comment your power phrase, and subscribe for more dark power. Part 6. The apology for existing. He walks into the room already shrinking. His steps are cautious, his voice muted, his presence apologetic. Not in words, but in posture, tone, and energy, as if simply being is an inconvenience to the world around him. This is the ultimate signature of weakness, a man who apologizes for his existence. Machiavelli didn't write for men like this. He wrote for those who were ready to take space, to impose will, to command by presence, not ask for permission to breathe. The weak man enters every situation like he's waiting to be accepted. He minimizes his desires, dilutes his opinions, and masks his instincts under a veil of politeness. But here's the truth: no one values what doesn't assert itself. You don't dominate a room by being loud. You dominate it by refusing to shrink. Power isn't in arrogance. It's in unapologetic existence. Machiavelli's world was ruled by perception, and the man who appears unsure, even slightly, becomes a servant to the confident. Here's your strategy. Stop asking for space. Take it. Walk slower, stand taller, speak less, but when you do, speak as if the world leans forward to hear it. You were not born to blend into the background of other people's stories. You are the author. Walk like it. If this shook your posture or your past, like, comment your power phrase, and subscribe for more dark power. Part 7. The performer's disease. He smiles too wide, nods too often, laughs when nothing is funny. Watch him. Every move he makes is for effect, not truth. He's not living, he's performing, hoping every gesture earns approval, hoping every sentence keeps him safe. This is the performer's disease, a life lived on stage, even when no one's watching. Machiavelli understood masks, but he wore them for power, not acceptance. The weak man wears a mask out of fear. Fear of being disliked, fear of being judged, fear of being real. The performer doesn't know who he is, only what others expect him to be. He shapeshifts to fit the mood, the room, the trend. And in doing so, he becomes invisible to himself. But here's the irony: the more you perform, the more they forget you. Here's your strategy. Learn the costume. Stop trying to impress and start trying to impose. Speak your mind even when it tightens the air. Hold your posture even when it draws heat. Stop performing and start positioning. Let people feel your friction. Let them feel your truth, even if it doesn't entertain them. Machiavelli would rather be hated and in control than loved and ignored. Power doesn't perform, it projects. If this shattered your inner actor, like, comment your power phrase, and subscribe for more dark power. And loyalty as a leash. He calls it loyalty. But look closer. It's not strength. It's dependence wrapped in devotion. The weak man confuses attachment with allegiance. He clings to others not out of honor, but out of fear. Fear of standing alone, fear of disapproval, fear of abandonment. Machiavelli understood the trap. Men are quick to forget benefits and slow to forgive harm. Loyalty, when untested, means nothing. And blind loyalty? It's suicide in slow motion. This man stays in broken friendships, serves unworthy leaders, defends betrayal, just to keep the peace. But peace without self-respect is not peace. It's slavery. He thinks he's being loyal, but really, he's just too afraid to walk alone. Here's your strategy. Redefine loyalty. Make it earned, not automatic. You don't owe anyone blind allegiance. Not family, not friends, not mentors. If they disrespect your values, your time, or your power, you don't stay loyal. You withdraw your presence like a weapon. True power moves with choice, not obligation. And when you walk away from those who drain you, something strange happens. They try to follow. Because nothing terrifies the manipulative more than a man who's no longer emotionally tethered. Loyalty is power only when you control the leash. If this helped you cut a silent chain, like, comment your power phrase, and subscribe for more dark power. Part 9. False humility, true weakness. He lowers his head, says, "I'm just trying to stay humble." But what he calls humility is often self-erasure. False humility is one of the most deceptive signs of weakness. It looks noble, but it's just fear painted with modesty. It's a shield, a disguise, a soft retreat from responsibility. Machiavelli knew this trick. He warned that people who appear meek often do so for protection, not principle, because real humility doesn't shrink, it sharpens. It doesn't avoid the spotlight. It earns it, then chooses silence. But the weak man hides in false humility because he's afraid of ambition, afraid of being seen, afraid of the pressure that power demands. Watch him closely. He downplays his talents. He deflects praise. He refuses leadership not because he's noble, but because he's terrified to fail. Here's your strategy. Stop mistaking hiding for virtue. Own your ability. Stand in it without apology. You don't have to shout, but you do have to stop whispering your worth. When you minimize yourself, the world doesn't see humility, it sees hesitation. And hesitation is prey behavior. Real strength walks in calm certainty. No bragging, no hiding, just presence. The lion doesn't declare he's a lion, he just stands and the jungle adjusts. If this exposed the mask you've been wearing, like, comment your power phrase and subscribe for more dark power. Part 10. The fear of isolation. This is the final fracture, the one that breaks all others. He cannot be alone. Not just physically, psychologically. The weak man surrounds himself constantly, noise, people, distractions, because in silence, his thoughts scream, and he has no weapon to silence them. Machiavelli knew, the man who cannot stand alone will be ruled by whoever stands beside him, and the world is full of masters who smell that need and feed it until the man forgets he ever had a will of his own. This fear of isolation reveals the core truth. He is not whole. He needs others to complete him, validate him, direct him. But power begins in solitude. You must become the kind of man who walks alone. Not because you hate others, but because you trust yourself fully. Without need, without approval, without the echo of someone else's voice telling you who you are. Here's your strategy. Master solitude. Cut the background noise. Be still. Confront your thoughts and build the kind of internal clarity that cannot be manipulated by company. Because once you're anchored in yourself, no one can move you. And in a world addicted to attention, the man who needs nothing becomes untouchable. Silence is the forge, solitude is the weapon. Use both. If this made you rethink your strength, like, comment your power phrase, and subscribe for more dark power.